Welcome to the No Ceilings podcast and the No Ceilings live NBA lottery draft show. I'm Tyler Metcalf, joined by Corey Tulaba, Albert Gim, and Tyler Rucker. What a night. One of the biggest milestones in the NBA draft season. Very exciting stuff. Teams are, at least one lucky fan base is going to have their next 10 years significantly altered by winning the Wembanyama sweepstakes. Albert, what are we looking forward to?
We're looking forward to a smart casual night.
No, we're not. You kidding me?
That's an inside joke. Sorry, guys. Excited to see people be really happy and really miserable about basketball stuff is my expert analysis.
I'm looking forward to the chaos, guys. That's really
why we're
it.
here.
We all love chaos.
We want the chaos. I want to see somebody jump up into the top four, throw things for a loop. I want to see dejected fan bases. I want to see happy fan bases. I want to see breakout videos of some crazy thing that like Kendrick Perkins says. I don't know, like whoever's on the ESPN stream. I want to see Brandon Roy. Maybe get him excited. That'd be great.
So, Rucker, what would be the most chaotic scenario in terms of who lands number one for you?
I mean, Portland, I feel like getting up there just because what do? Do you try to convince Dame of like, hey, we're taking Victor, he's going to be fine, he's going to be the real deal? Or do you try to make Dame happy right away and go get a superstar, which I think we all would probably lean one way over the other. I don't know. What about you guys? What are you thinking? Is there any wild world where a team gets one and we're like, whoa, this is crazy? Because I feel like Victor's going to fit everywhere.
I mean, fit wise, yeah, I guess I'm there with you. I've been kind of throwing it out there as a joke, but I would hate it. But if Dallas got the first pick, that'd be something, right?
Yeah. Shout out Mark Tatum, as everyone's listening, just walked up to the stage. Looks like he hasn't aged in like 5 years. Here we're going. We're live, folks.
Hate his tie.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
All right. New Orleans is at 14. I got Tankathon up next to us. So if anything goes out of order, we'll go crazy. This should be Toronto.
There it is.
Toronto. OKC fans, hold your breath. Gosh, if this happens, I'm going to probably start drinking.
There it is. Okay.
Well, sorry, Presty. Nick Collison, we still love you. Great suit.
Give me Dallas right here.
Corey, hold your breath.
Dallas. Give me Dallas.
Whoa!
Okay.
Orlando at 11. We're staying still.
Wait, does that mean the Bulls jumped into the top four?
No.
Or was that?
I don't know.
Chicago?
No, it said from Chicago. So obviously they did that on purpose. I feel like in previous years it would have showed like Chicago, and then they would have said
you.
Dallas at 10.
Dallas keeps their pick.
Should be Utah.
Damn.
Utah at 9. Oh gosh.
It's pretty chalk so far.
If we get a chalk lottery, I hate the chalk line. 8.
Delete the YouTube video.
8 Washington. We're staying still, folks.
They dropped one, right?
Who?
Washington?
No, they're at 8. We're staying in order.
Indiana.
We're chalk still, Metcalf. I promise you.
Ooh, Halliburton. I like the
6 should be Orlando. Indiana's at 7 for those following with us. We love you. Orlando's still there.
Cool.
So we're solid. Then we get one more pick in the longest commercial of all time.
God, this is really boring.
Detroit.
Holy crap. Jesus.
Detroit at 5.
He's playing the world record, right?
And Wallace might kill somebody.
Oh my God, dude. He's pissed.
Oh, that is not good.
All right. So our 4 teams are Houston, San Antonio, Charlotte, Portland. Immediate thoughts. Someone take over. Mike Schmitz. Hello.
Dude, it's over. Portland, they got it. They're going to get the first pick in the draft.
I mean, look, I would absolutely love to see Portland. One, big up, Mike Schmitz. That's our guy. For first and foremost, a Shaden Sharp, Victor Wembanyama, kind of young back-to-back drafts situation. unbelievable, legendary stuff. And then, I mean, I feel like it would be so rad to, I mean, obviously it's not rigged, but the reward of Dame staying and staying loyal and, you know, ultimately being rewarded for his patience would just be, you know, one of my favorite storylines ever. So I'd be psyched about Portland there.
Yeah, even just like the fit of Wemby playing alongside Dame, and I mean, who knows what they do with Nurkic, but that's at least a bigger body who can absorb some of the physicality early in Wemby's career. Grant, Sharp, Simons, God, that would be an incredible amount of fun. But that is just heartbreaking for the Pistons to drop to the worst pick possible for them.
Is it crazy to think that if if Portland ends up with Wemby, then maybe this could be the passing of the baton and Dame can look to go elsewhere. Portland can start to rebuild around Wemby, and it's the next chapter.
I think that's a really good point, Albert. I don't think that's actually a bad call. I don't know. I'm not speaking for you guys, but if I'm in that front office, as much as Dame's done for them, everything, I would be saying, hey, we're taking Wemby. If you don't want to be here for a rookie big man that, you know, is going to be special and you want to go win right now, well, that's fine. We'll grant your wish. And maybe you're looking at getting Wemby and a treasure chest of picks. And that is speeding up your rebuild, or you whatever want to call it. Because Wemby and Shaedon Sharp is a damn fun 1-2 to keep grooming with. So I don't know.
But and if you're Dame, wouldn't you be thrilled to play with Wemby? I know he's a little later in his career, but that's a type of player that he's never played with. Obviously, Wemby's his own type of player and all, but the quote unquote superstars or star players that Dame has played with, and it's mostly been guys in the backcourt with him.
I mean, that pick and roll would be terrifying. Dame all of a sudden is just going to be able to throw the ball anywhere near the basket, and they're going to be great. I mean, you're also probably adding a couple of years to Dame's career, because I still think, you know, Corey and I did the film session with Dylan Jones. He brought up a great point with us about Dame, because he was just talking about studying him. He's like, Dame's this one point guard. I think he can extend his career because he's not the athletic, you know, Russell Westbrook, where it's like, okay, you're slowing down quickly with your explosiveness. Dame's just always shifty. He's an outside threat all the time. So I don't know. It's interesting. And we haven't even talked about the other teams still that got a shot, which I'm excited for all of them. I mean, those are great fits. Those were what we were hoping for.
Yeah, and I think my favorite, personally, landing spot would be San Antonio. But Corey, like when looking at Houston or Charlotte, how do you see him fitting there?
Well, I mean, I don't really care about anybody's fit, to be completely honest.
We're coming back from commercial, so
it doesn't matter. It
doesn't matter.
But obviously, I think like Şengün, Jabari, Victor, like you could fit any combination of those guys. And honestly, the inside-out game of Şengün and Victor would be unbelievable. The passing, the high-low, it would just be phenomenal. It would allow Victor to be more perimeter-oriented throughout the early part of his career. It'd be really great, I think. You know, like you could get really creative with that. I think Udoka would have a ball. So if that's what it turns into, I would prefer that to Charlotte in that situation, to be honest, just because, you know, I don't know. It's just I'm not having fun with Charlotte.
For everyone listening, unbelievable. Victor's taking selfies with a disposable camera. I just love that. Also, the photo of him earlier standing in a room where he potentially couldn't fit in was awesome. All right, so we're back. They're spinning around, you know. Mark Williams looks very serious because he's also looking like, oh man, I might be losing my job. Here we go. Mark Tatum, ladies and gentlemen. Hold your breath.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Wow. Rockets at 4.
Guys, I'm telling you.
Portland at 3. He's going to go to Charlotte.
That's why I don't know shit.
Charlotte
Oh,
Hornets
wow.
too.
There it
Wow.
is.
Greg
Jeez.
Popovich, stand up, baby.
Wow.
Wow, I love it.
Wow.
Whoever's Holt literally was standing up doing a fist pump before they even announced it. That was awesome. We need that clip.
God.
Wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
Why is that guy crying?
Victor.
Is that guy crying?
I mean, that's the biggest smile you'll ever see a man have.
The guy at the Spurs table was like getting teary-eyed. Okay.
All right, so
Holy
let's
cow.
gather our thoughts here for a sec.
I actually just contributed to Air Alamo, and one of the questions was, how do you perceive the fit with San Antonio? And I gave the same answer I just said here. I don't care about the fit. Congratulations, you have Victor Wembanyama.
Yes.
But then I was like, look, from everything we know about Jeremy Sohan, it's that this dude can't really shoot. And Victor kind of sort of can, and it allows Sohan to still be his defensive, maybe like wingy Draymond type guy next to Wembanyama in the front court. You don't have to worry about him developing a 3-point shot as quickly as maybe you would have previously. Devin Vassell, love that dude. I mean, a defensive trio of Wembanyama, Sohan, and Vassell is unbelievably intriguing. And who cares about the rest? Congratulations. You have the number one building block in the league. So it's great. Great for San Antonio. You did it again. Somehow you did it again.
Just bear with us, folks. We're getting our thoughts. I'm trying to get the order down. We'll start getting after this chaos. I know everyone's probably either doing backflips or shots or whatever you're thinking of.
So just to recap, lottery's looking like San Antonio at 1, Charlotte at 2, Portland at 3, Houston at 4, Detroit at 5, Orlando at 6, Indiana at 7, Washington at 8, Utah at 9, Dallas at 10, Orlando again at 11, OKC at 12, Toronto at 13, and New Orleans at 14. I mean, so 20 years from now, when there's another generational big who's the consensus number 1 overall pick and the Spurs are in the lottery, we just have to assume that they're going to win the lottery, right?
I mean, it's awesome. I know we were rooting for everyone. We root for everyone to get this, but I feel like, Metcalf, I said to you on the pod before, I was like, I'm rooting for San Antonio. I want Pop to have one more like big project. We don't know how much longer he's going to coach. I feel like this might have injected a couple of years into his coaching career. I also feel like the fit with Sohan is going to be so awesome. The team all of a sudden just like that's the piece. I feel like now that's going to really bring things together. Vassell, obviously, whatever, Keldon Johnson, going off the top of my head with, I don't know, contract situations. Give me a break, guys. I just like it. I like it a lot. I don't know. What about you guys?
I mean, this is exciting. It's exciting.
I look really excited to be here. I feel like Albert was just crushed that.
I'm still trying to recover from the Knicks not getting the Dallas pick, but it's okay. It's okay. This is
it seems like it.
Yeah, this is fun for us. I really like that before we found out the last 4, they showed a clip of LeBron warming up and they put number 1 overall pick.
That was my favorite. Yeah, that's my favorite part of the night too.
In case, we forgot stuff,
I think they did it like 3 times too.
Yeah.
So we really got to. I didn't know he went first. It's a little bit of a shocker. Any other
20 years ago,
storylines
though.
before we get into the madness? Corey, what are you thinking about?
Well, I just want to say, is this the first year that a team, like in the back half of the draft, hasn't moved up?
That's a good point.
Seems
Dude.
like it. I mean, the
Like
first,
since
second,
the
and third
odds
picks.
changes.
The first, second, and third pick all moved up 2 spots each, which is pretty fascinating.
Scoot's outfit looks sick, though.
And I know we're going to get into each team and talk them down. I actually think Detroit's going to be fine because now they're going to have either Whitmore or potentially Jarace fall right into their laps. That is if the Thompson twin goes earlier. Or no.
Jarace to the Blazers.
I mean,
4.
yeah. Charlotte is going to be.
Yeah.
That'll be fascinating.
Yeah.
That's where things
I know
are
what
gonna
I
be.
would do. I don't think, though, that Charlotte fans are going to want to hear it, but I know what I would do.
No, go run with it. Give your thoughts.
What
I mean,
would
people are
you
going to say
do?
I'm crazy. I'd take
Let-
Scoot.
Yeah.
I'd take Scoot. And
Say it.
I'm not thinking LaMelo Ball's stopping me from taking him. And if that can't work, I'm moving on from LaMelo. And I know people are like, "What are you talking about?" I think we've seen enough. And I don't think LaMelo's shown that you're passing up on Scoot Henderson. But you guys can call me crazy. I welcome it.
I don't think anybody here is gonna say that's crazy. I think we all love Scoot. I hate the fit, and if the plan is to maybe get LaMelo, maybe or get Scoot, somebody who fits better next to him than LaMelo, and I think you could get a ton of value for LaMelo, then I'm in. I mean, look, I love Mark Williams.
And Miller makes all the sense there. He really does.
I mean, you can go a number of directions. I'm fine. I told you guys off air, kind of a similar situation. Mark Williams, Jarace combo, I'm in. Let's just shut it down. Let's just straight up shut it down. But
0 points.
In a more realistic setting, that this roster's pretty bare. Like they just have a bunch of random pieces around. Like I like McGowan's, but you're not like this dude is a.
You're not building around him.
No, you're not considering him necessarily as part of a core. I'm probably moving on from trying to get whatever I can for the Rozier Hayward type situation. PJ Washington, I'd imagine his contract situation. Is he up for is he a free agent, a restricted free agent?
He was because they were trying to trade him. Sorry for everyone.
Yeah.
This is the time of the year where I start getting crazy on contracts and stuff. But I believe so off the top of my head.
PJ Washington, the only player in NBA history to be on the trading block for the full duration of his career. So
I'm also convinced he's going to go somewhere else and start playing really good.
He's good. I'll never forget his first game as a pro against the Bulls, where I think he hit 7 threes. So he always has that memory burned into my head.
Those are special memories.
Yeah. But hey, here's the deal. The Hornets took JT Thor and Kai Jones.
Who the hell is that?
In the same draft.
I'm kidding.
We were in the house for that. There's nowhere to go but up.
Dude, I remember how disgusted we were when they took Kai Jones. We were in the building. We're like, come on. Be better.
That was also the rumor forever. They were going to try to take him earlier. And then I think they traded back a bunch and still took him like a little early. And I was like, well, at least they traded back. But hey, Metcalf, what are your thoughts? You got anything, or should we?
No, should we
get
just
chaotic?
Dive into this first round mock?
Oh, here we
guys
go.
ready?
I think we shall.
All
Time to cook.
So just for the order, I was greedy and I took the first pick. Corey will be picking second, Albert third, Rucker fourth, and then we'll just recycle that throughout. So first overall
Houston,
pick,
we have a problem. Sorry,
with the San Antonio Spurs, obviously going Victor Wembanyama. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a consensus pick. That's what this entire draft lottery, that's what the entire tanking season was all about this year. One of the most special prospects we've ever seen. And I don't think I cannot wait to see who the first talking head is that comes out and is like, well, actually, I'm a Amen Thompson or Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson fan at one, because no one's taken over that property yet. And you better bet your ass that someone will.
No, I think it was Carl, one of the ESPN, like the New York guys. Maybe Carton. Carton. Boomer and Carton. Carton. I saw a TikTok where he said
you lost me at TikTok.
They did a breakout.
So XBA on TikTok.
They did a breakout with him where he was like, I just wouldn't take him. He's like,
just no reason.
He's like, guys that tall, I don't like unicorns. I don't believe in them. And I was like, all right, great. So as to your theory, it has been done.
Corey, his name is Craig Carton. You were right.
Yeah, thank you. It just
Shout out
doesn't.
Craig.
It didn't roll off the tongue the right way.
Come on,
Needs,
Craig.
You
he
know
needs
what
a
I mean?
better name.
Yeah.
He needs to go get a better one.
Okay. At number 2, the Charlotte Hornets. Corey, who are you going with?
All right. We briefly discussed this, and I know that for at least half the panel, this will be a little bit controversial, but I actually am gonna go with Brandon Miller here.
I get it. I get it.
At number 2. Albert and I just did a full episode on Brandon Miller, and I just think the dude's really good. I mean, we were really high on him coming into the year, and that has never waned for me. I think that dude is the real deal. I know, like, it's too simplistic to just be like, it's a wings league, and he's 6'9" and blah, blah, blah. But like, the fact of the matter is that he exceeded my expectations of what he was going to do this year, because I thought he was going to be a dude that did a lot of mid-range work, and that 3-point shooting. I mean, 7 attempts a game, whatever it is, close to 40%. And he would have been over 40 if he didn't just go ice cold in the tournament. The finishing improved tremendously throughout the year. I think that NBA spacing is going to allow him to finish effectively there. With LaMelo, I mean, that's a team you can absolutely just push the pace, run and gun, and get him easy looks around the hoop and easy looks from 3. The way that those two guys could run the floor together. He's long, he's rangy. You have Mark Williams backing him up. I mean, he could be a legitimate scoring option for this team. With next to LaMelo Ball, I mean, you're close to forming a core that, even if I'm not a big LaMelo fan, these are 2 6'8", 6'9" guys who can dribble, pass, shoot, and at least one of them can defend. So, I think they would be a really interesting core. They would you can't go wrong with Scoot. I think either way, you're giving people a reason to watch Charlotte. They got a lot of fringe moves that they need to make, but I think that would be a start of something really, really special, because Brandon Miller's a guy who could thrive on or off the ball. So if you're going to put anybody next to LaMelo, he seems like such a tremendous fit.
Rucker, I know you have Scoot at 2. How do you feel about that?
It makes sense if you're still buying into the long term of LaMelo. Like, even me saying adamant, earlier, I would take Scoot. Like, I get it. If you're like, no, we're not done with the LaMelo experience, and goodness, what Charlotte needs, Brandon Miller has. They need wings, they need scoring, they need shooting. We've been trying to get Charlotte to get some shooting for years, so that would make a lot of sense to me. And if you're going with LaMelo, Mark Williams, and Brandon Miller, I feel pretty pumped about that. I'm still with Corey. They got to figure out what to do with some of those veteran contracts. You got to get that off the books. Maybe bring some smarter pieces in. I don't know. It makes all the sense in the world. Like, we talked off air, as Corey hinted earlier, and I was like, I absolutely love Brandon Miller. The more I watch him, I'm just like, I could see it happening. I get it, but for me, I would just be too enamored with Scoot at the point. And I understand they have LaMelo, and that would probably be tricky, and you'd have to sort of feel out around the league what you could potentially get, because you also got to have some team very convinced that they want LaMelo's, to pay top dollar for LaMelo, because that's what Charlotte's going to try to get. So I don't know. I think Brandon Miller is going to make a lot of sense, and seems like a good fit. The draft's always about fit. That's what we always talk about, and that seems like a better fit.
All right, with the 3rd overall pick, Portland Trailblazers. Albert, who are you adding to help out Dame or potentially rebuild around?
People are going to think I'm crazy, but this isn't as straightforward as it may seem, is my point. And me saying that is not making a selection, but want to talk this out, right? Because Portland, we might be in a position. Well, I say we. I'm not the Portland Trailblazers. What am I saying? The Trailblazers may be in a position where, who knows, right? Like, maybe Dame comes into the office and front office is like, hey guys, it's been a great 10 plus years. It's been amazing. I've loved it here. Love playing with the red and black. Um, no one ever says that. But maybe it's time for a change of scenery and for me to go and try a different city, and then if that's the case, then yeah, they'll grab Scoot Henderson. It's easy. But look, we talked about it before we started recording. And if you're just hopping into the draft stuff now, or you've been on it for a long time, I really do think there's a thing where sometimes we get conditioned by mock drafts and big boards. And, just by reading mock drafts and big boards all the time, you start to form opinions based not off of what you're seeing, but based off of what you see on a website. And so I know it sounds crazy for me to even consider Jarace Walker here. I don't think it's that crazy because Jarace Walker is a defensive weapon. He's a guy that offensively is going to offer you a ton more than he was able to flash during his time in Houston. I think he's a guy who in high school, when we did our early season pod on Jarace, Corey and I, we talked about his mid-range shooting. We believed in his touch. We believe that eventually he's going to be able to extend that shooting range out to 3 potentially. And if you're talking about a 6'7", 6'8" defensive monster who can pass the hell out of the ball, has sick handle, I'm going to do it because I think there's a world where it happens. The Portland Trailblazers are going to select Jarace Walker. Boom.
Yes, Albert.
Boom.
I love it. I'm proud of you. You also just made my pick really easy. So thank you so much.
Wow.
I like it, Albert. I get it. I mean, it makes sense. It's going to shock the crap out of a lot of people, especially the listeners. We hope you guys stay around for at least 5 more minutes, but I get it. I get the intrigue.
People are going to hate me for it, but
Metcalf, do you think it's nuts? Go ahead.
6'8", 7'2" wingspan. 6'8", 7'2" and a half wingspan. Anchored one of the best defensive teams in the country. When I had Marcus Sasser on the draft deck and we watched film, he's like, we consider him a guard because you have no idea what this dude could do with the ball in his hands. He can handle the ball. He could pass. I mean, with NBA spacing, he's going to be able to do so much in the short roll. From the beginning of the year, this is another guy that we had as, I think at some point, at least, all of us had Jarace Walker as the 3rd best prospect on our boards.
Yeah, for most of the year.
So we've been high on him since the preseason. Is he a perfect prospect? No, he's not. But I think, Albert, if I could add to it, I think if you look at the playoffs right now, you don't see a lot of guys like Scoot Henderson making deep playoff runs necessarily. You need a very specific team context built around a guy like that to make that run. I do think Scoot is special enough that you can build that team around him, but it's a little bit harder than I think, people are going to be thinking just because we've heard his name, like you said, and seen his name on mock drafts for so long. So there are some real questions about Scoot. And I think outside, even Victor, I think there are going to be questions about whether he could stay healthy and whether he actually is a shooter and all of that. I think there are questions about almost every prospect that we ever see. Even LeBron had questions about it if he was a shooter coming in. So I don't think this is crazy by any stretch. I don't think we're doing this for reactions. I think there's a clear rationale, especially if Dame Lillard, is a guy who wants to stay in Portland and wants a guy who not only is just like can you contribute right away guy, but like, can you actually give us something that our team doesn't have, which is like a defensive presence?
Right.
I think that's the most important thing Corey said is everyone's going to see this and be like, how are you passing up Scoot? And it's like, well, there's the curveball that you have to consider if that organization is looking at, Dame. And he's just like, if you draft Scoot, I'm gone. And he's not going to say that publicly, but that's going to be what's relayed. He's going to be like, I'm not going to stand here and just mentor another point guard behind me. Like if you draft Jarace, that makes some sense. And Jarace, Shaedon Sharpe, Dame, it's fun. I like that a lot. And every criticism Corey just had about Scoot Henderson, I completely agree with as the GM of the Houston Rockets.
And moving on to the 4th pick for the Houston Rockets, Rucker, I'm imagining that this pick may be a heck of a lot easier than you may have anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Houston Rockets fans are going to be a little bummed with how everything turned out, but I think it could be a blessing. You're going to be in a good spot here, especially with Charlotte maybe going to have someone fall into your lap. And yeah, I'm going to take Scoot. I think that's just a fantastic fit for both. I think Rockets fans, if they landed at 2, would have been hoping for this probably. Now, obviously, they're probably going to start convincing themselves about Amen Thompson too, because you're having to open that wormhole with picking 4th if Scoot goes early. But I think the value here, potentially getting what could be the 2nd overall pick at 4. I love the idea of him playing for Udoka, who's kind of a tough-minded, has been in the league, former player. Houston needs to get someone that's going to shift that mentality of that team. They did it with their coaching hire with Udoka. And I think Scoot would be a massive leap in the right direction when it comes to everything you've heard about him off the court, how hard of a worker he is. I just feel like the Rockets need Scoot. Like they need this type of player who just will. Metcalf, you had a crazy comment on the pod, and it's been one of my favorite comments. You said the love child of Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook, and I cannot get that out of my head. I love it because I think that's how he plays the game, and I'd be very, very excited if he landed with Houston. That was the team I was hoping get Scoot. So,
and a G League Ignite backcourt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Yeah. Everyone,
Well,
the
and
storyline we really need to talk about moving forward. Shout out ESPN. Why don't you get that one going? Jalen Green, Scoot. That dunk also just terrifies me every time I see it. But I love him. I absolutely love Scoot, and I think he's going to be a dominant point guard for years to come.
Well, and just everything we've been saying about the Rockets for the last couple of years is how desperately they need a point guard, someone to run the show, to slow things down when needed, speed it up when needed, to really get the tempo and feel of the game. That's what Scoot Henderson's done in the G League for 2 years now, since he was 17. And I know there'll be some concerns or hesitations about, what do we do about taking the ball out of Jalen Green's hands, or what about Şengün's playmaking? I think Scoot Henderson's one of these rare point guards where he's shown that he can and will play off ball with off ball screens, cutting, running off screens. So even though I want the ball primarily in his hand, dictating that offense, I think that he's really easy to also get those guys going in isolation and run some really creative stuff. Then with Udoka, I was pretty disappointed in Scoot's defense all year, but with Udoka, I really think that he could be the guy to kind of pull that defensive potential that it really is there, to really pull that out of him.
I'm right there with you. I also think maybe Houston's in a world where they're aggressive to try to go up. I don't know. Maybe you could try to dangle something in front of Charlotte, and we never know. That could be something. I don't understand why Charlotte would want to pass up either Scoot or Brandon Miller, but never know. Things can get crazy.
Kevin Porter Jr. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean that's probably what Charlotte would do.
All right, moving on to the 5th pick, the biggest losers of the night.
Easy, Detroit basketball, easy.
Well, they were slotted for the 1st pick, and they fell to 5. They fell as far as they possibly could. I would consider that
losers.
a worst case scenario.
Everyone's a winner, except Detroit.
I'm going to go with Cam Whitmore, who is the best prospect on my board. I think a really good off-ball option. I think the best athlete in this class. I think he's got some crazy high two-way potential. I think it's one of the bigger home run swings right now, and fits pretty seamlessly with the kind of ball dominance of Cade and Ivy.
Wow.
Albert, that seemed to surprise you.
No. I'm with you. I moved before we dropped our latest big board. I moved Cam Whitmore maybe 14 times. I don't know, man. I like him, but also, do I like him? I'm not sure.
We actually saw you making all those adjustments, so we staged this to have an intervention. All we wanted to do was get to the Cam Whitmore pick, and then this is just an intervention. Thank you, everyone, for joining Albert's Hour.
I have trouble, man. Like, sometimes I really think I'm smart about knowing which guys are going to be good at shooting, and then sometimes I'm like way off. Like Halliburton coming in, I was like, hell no. That jump shot that looks like that, hell no. And then, well, I was wrong, like really wrong. Whitmore, I don't know. I'd like to hear Corey's thoughts, just because with Whitmore, I really don't like. I get it, but I don't get it. Like, I don't think he's going to be a good shooter. Like, I feel that in my bones, in my plums.
Corey, you've been sort of like ringing the dinner bell about his shot, and you were just saying there's more concerns than I feel like all of us were wanting to spotlight throughout the year. Did those concerns kind of calm down? Because Whitmore was fantastic, I thought, in the second half of the season. Like, you started to see the game, the confidence really come around. But I still think you got some good, I don't know, concerns or worries, but you're a little, I guess, concerned about his shot.
I honestly, it's not even the shot that I'm super concerned with. Like, do I think he's a good shooter? No. I mean, 34%, even though if it was a fairly tough shot diet, 34%, not great. 70% from the free throw line, also not great. But that's more so where my concern is. Like, he doesn't get to the free throw line a lot. And I know that, we like to be positive about prospects and, their potential weaknesses. But, like, my dude had crazy tunnel vision this year.
Yeah.
Like, crazy. And there's a difference between when a guy might have a low number, but he showed some flashes and maybe there's some team context, and there's a difference between my dude just did not even care to pass in the slightest. Like, I think it was 17 or 19 assists on the entire season, and he missed some of it. But, like, that's worrying to me, because this is a guy who, like, if he is going to just be a scorer, you better be a damn good one, right? And don't get me wrong, he rebounds. I think he's a good defender. But offensively, like, he does need guys, I think, that are going to set him up, because I just don't know if he's going to make his teammates better enough that you want the ball in his hands a lot. Like, to me, he's going to be more of a play finisher.
Agreed. And that's how I would envision him operating off of Cade and Ivy.
Yeah, and I think that, in that scenario, I think I trust him playing next to Cade. And here's my worry as a fit. You have a lot of talent, a lot of interesting pieces. At a certain point, your pieces have to fit together like a puzzle. You can't keep trying to jam an edge in the middle of the puzzle and hope that it works. It's not going to work. It's not the right piece. I don't think that Cade and Jaden Ivey and Whitmore and Jalen Duren complement each other enough, because there's just not enough shooting between those guys. Like, even Cade, who I buy as a shooter and think has a nice stroke, he's not even, he hasn't proven anything really that he's going to be a plus shooter. It becomes, the floor becomes a little bit tighter for everybody in these scenarios. So at a certain point, you're going to be like, all right, we're a lot of fun, but how are we going to take that next step? And I don't think you have to worry about that right now. So if you think that Cam Whitmore is the best player on the board, I think that you take him. And I do think that he will fit well next to Cade. I think I like Duren there a lot. And I think, his passing, off DHOs at the elbows, like, Cam is going to be able to cut and get easy buckets that way. So there is a lot that I like. There's a lot that I don't. With Cam, I want him to take less of the off the bounce stuff. But there's a lot to work with there. We saw what a freak athlete he was with the P3 stuff. Yeah. And that matters. It does. I wish that this was Charlotte in this spot instead of Detroit, because I do think that him next to LaMelo, that was like his ideal fit. I think LaMelo would have brought the most out of him. That's what I've been hoping for. But, Cam's a guy that I think it's going to be hard for him to bust. But I do think his floor is a little bit lower than the consensus wants to think, because once upon a time, Stanley Johnson was a top 8 pick and Isaac Okoro was a top 6 pick. There is a level of, like, all right, this dude really actually does absolutely have to shoot it, because if he doesn't shoot it, he's just not a good player, is basically what it comes down to. And 34%, 70 from the line with no passing chops, like, you are risking a little bit there. So I think the floor, I think there is some worry, but even still, I think I moved him up a little bit on my last board. Like, there's just a lot to like. He's a freak in a lot of ways.
All right. Well, another team that's looking for a whole lot of shooting is the Orlando Magic with the number 6 pick. Corey, who are you going with?
All right. So I am not necessarily going to help their shooting here as bad as I personally want to. in this scenario. But I'm going to take Asar Thompson here, a guy that, I think actually does kind of fit in well with that roster. I think that this is a team that has a lot of smart players on the team, a lot of guys who just do a really great job of moving the ball, and they make quick, like 0.5 decisions. And I think he gives Orlando something at the guard spot, at the swing spot, that allows them to keep what they have and isn't jamming in a piece that maybe doesn't fit nearly as well as some of the other guys. Because there's been a lot of talk about some of these bigger, like a Jet Howard or something like that, to Orlando because he's a shooter, but like at a certain point there, you can't have too much height. Like guys kind of still have to fit in positionally. Otherwise you're just banishing one of these guys to the bench or you lose. Like the pieces have to fit. You're still building a team. You can't just build a roster, right? And I think that Asar is a guy who his game will fit. He can play without the ball. He can play on the ball. He can create. He's shown improvement in his jumper. He is a freak athlete. And I think that you build around him and Paulo and Franz, and there's just a lot of length. There's a lot of size, but I think their games complement each other still, even so. So I'm going with Asar, a high potential swing, who I think has been a little bit underrated by some other. Maybe not. Maybe he hasn't been underrated by outlets in ranking, but I think there needs to be a much more in-depth conversation about him being on the same tier of prospect as his brother.
Maybe say underappreciated.
Underappreciated could be it. Yeah. I think Asar is a guy that you could argue could have gone in the top 3 or 4. He really, really does have crazy athleticism, and while he might not look nearly as bursty as his brother, that dude gets up and there's just this smoothness about the way he moves. Like Amen is quick, twitchy and bursty, but Asar just moves on the court. He glides. It's like he's like a ghost. A ghost moves around where they're just gliding in the air. Okay, so you've never watched Scooby-Doo, I guess. Great.
How do we talk about Ghost and not Casper be the first thing that gets brought up? Please continue.
Shout out Devin Sawa.
I completely understand it because I still think that Orlando might be my favorite fit for Asar. I think that's a perfect marriage, and I still think everyone thinks Amen. And I'm not trying to dog the Twins, but I think Amen gets a lot of the spotlight because of how flashy, how fast he is. I feel Asar is incredibly impressive on tape. It's just more controlled. I feel like Amen is a sports car that's on the freeway going 100 miles an hour. Asar's, under control, shifting gears. He just plays smooth. So it makes sense to me.
All right. With the 7th pick, the Indiana Pacers are on the clock. Albert, who are you going with?
I'm going to avoid a long monologue here. We're going Keontae George. Keontae George here. I was actually shocked Corey didn't go Sensabaugh before this. But no, I get it. You thought about it. Corey, I can't hear you, but I can read your lips. And you said you thought about it.
And I thought about it. I did think about it. I think that Sensabaugh is legitimately like if I was actually picking for the Magic, and his knees checked out, I would probably have gone Sensabaugh. I think that as a fit shooter, I also thought if I was the Magic, if I happened to be picking for them later on, I could still get Sensabaugh at that pick based on everybody else. Yeah.
And that's called knowing your audience. Okay, so Albert, why Keontae here? Any concern with the overlap with Mathurin, or are you thinking that Mathurin can side up? Or
you just doubling down on your Mathurin is Iman Shumpert from last year? Because some people haven't forgotten. Some people on this podcast have not forgotten that you were saying that all year, and they were very upset when you
Albert's
kept
playing
saying
the long game.
Oh, wait, that was me. I was upset about it.
All I'm going to say is it's too early to tell. Here, I don't care about overlap. Is my answer here. I
You
love
just want
Keontae.
buckets. You just want buckets. We get it.
I like Keontae because, like Halliburton, he could play on ball and off ball. Keontae is a guy who's I think he's gonna shoot the shit out of the ball. A guy who's gonna be a really tough defender too. Something that Corey highlighted for us recently. Struggled with injury for a big part of the season as well. I'm okay. I'm okay with overlap because I don't really see an overlap with. Once again, like you said, I think Mather can play up a little bit, and then for Keontae and Halliburton in that backcourt together, that'd be great. And if early on Carlisle doesn't want that, having Keontae come off the bench and be an offensive weapon, 6-man type of guy, I think that's awesome too. So I like Keontae here.
Awesome. All right. With the 8th pick, Washington Wizards, Rucker. Who is being added to this stellar team?
Do I want to piss off everyone watching, or do I want to make myself happy, or both? I love everybody in the chat. Thank you guys thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it as always. I'm gonna go with my heart here. I'm gonna take Cason Wallace. I absolutely love him. I think this is the mentality Washington needs. Yes, I know the other Thompson twins on the board. Thank you everyone for pointing it out. I still think Cason's one of the safest lottery picks in this draft. And my goodness, can we just get a safe pick for Washington so we can start taking some steps forward? They had a big front office move. I think everyone's going to be hoping that they're turning in the right direction. I think Cason would be a step towards that. The more I watch him, the more I'm just convinced that someone's going to get unbelievable value wherever they get him in this lottery. I think he's just going to be a guy that plays at the next level for a very long time.
Albert, Cason is a guy who it feels has gone really under the radar this entire draft cycle. Because he's not the flashiest player. He's not, he doesn't put up the most absurd stat lines. But where are you at with him as a player? And why do you think he's kind of gone mostly under the radar?
As a player, I still love him. Wrote a piece about him early on in the season. I think I compared him to a really good pair of scissors. So what does that mean? I don't even know. Why did I write that? I don't know. But Cason Wallace, I think, is going to be a rock solid defender from day one. A guy point of attack stuff. Even some of his help defense with some of the rim protection stuff he flashed at times was crazy for guard. Why is he going under the radar? I don't know. Maybe he has a soft voice. I have no idea. But I think Cason Wallace is awesome and deserves a lot of credit. I understand why Rucker did what he did, considering the Wizards are a weird team, weird organization, and bringing in someone like Cason who is going to be no nonsense, just will do his job. Seems like he's going to be a good culture guy by not causing any problems is not a bad thing. So I'm down for it.
Okay. Well, with the 9th pick, Utah Jazz, couple different directions I could go, but given that they have a couple first-round picks, I think where they're at, they just kind of have. I'm just going to take a home run swing, and reluctantly go with Amen Thompson.
Yes, that's basically why I took Cason. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I think that's the right move.
I do think it is too.
Yeah,
Danny would do it too.
All that spacing that they play with out in Utah, like I actually think like this is Amen's perfect fit.
So Corey, you and Rucker the other week wrote a really great piece on both the twins. Why do you think the fit with him there specifically is ideal? And just what do you kind of see as his kind of long-term realistic potential?
This fit. Sorry.
I think that the fit is, like I said, it's the spacing, like the way that they play this 5-out system will allow Amen early on to be able to play to his strengths and have this wide open floor to be able to get downhill, get these paint touches. And when he gets there, like we know that he's capable of finding guys all over the floor. He can make these, crazy passes. Sometimes do you want him to kind of slow down and just make the easy play? Sure. But the fact of the matter is, like, if he's got shooters spreading the floor for him, he's going to be able to find them with a ton of space. He's going to be able to, get some kind of efficient basket around the hoop. with an open floor. In a lot of ways, at certain times, it might feel comfortable. It might look a little bit OTE-ish with the space that they get. And it allows him time to kind of develop that shot without a ton of pressure, in a market like Utah, with an organization that clearly has a good coach and, president of basketball operations that is going to have a plan for him. So I think it's like, if I was the Thompson family, this is where I want Amen to end up, even if it happened to be at the back half of the, back end of the top 10.
But after this pick, can we get everyone in the chat's asking for a little recap, Metcalf? So if anyone's been writing it down, I don't know if you have more comments, but I'm trying to help out the chat because we love the chat and I'm trying to help the chat. So
just recapping the top 9 picks, we had the Spurs take Victor Wembanyama at 1. At 2, the Charlotte Hornets took Brandon Miller. At 3, the Portland Trailblazers took Jarace Walker. At 4, the Houston Rockets took Scoot Henderson. At 5, the Pistons took Cam Whitmore. At 6, the Magic took Asar Thompson. 7, the Pacers took Keontae George. 8, the Wizards took Cason Wallace. At 9, the Jazz just took Amen Thompson. And at 10, Corey, the Dallas Mavericks are taking.
All right, so I am actually going in a different direction than the direction that I want to go, because the Dallas Mavericks are not in the position where they can take maybe somebody who isn't going to appease their star player.
This is just a monologue for Bryce Sensabaugh. I know it. Just get it over with.
I said I'm not going to do what I want to do. It's to set up the fact that I'm not taking Sensabaugh. And honestly, I think Sensabaugh is a pretty damn good option next to Luka. However, I am going to take Taylor Hendricks because
it's a smart pick. Okay, I thought you were going there. I was like,
I'm glad you decided to make a good pick.
I think you spaced out during my entire monologue, because this is where it was headed the whole time before you rudely interrupted.
I thought you were trying to find a clip, so you're welcome. I'm sorry. I annoyed you with my friendship.
So I think that they need somebody who's going to be able to defend next to Luka. Now, I am also not somebody who believes that Taylor Hendricks is a wing in the slightest. I think this dude is a 4. I think that he's going to be a floor spacing 4. I think eventually he might, he's going to get stronger. He's got a good frame, although he's got some skinny legs, that you could play him in some small ball 5 lineups. But just as a play finisher, as a guy who will kind of do the things that I'm sure they wanted Christian Wood to do, but ultimately, comes without the baggage of the other things that they don't want Christian Wood to do, right?
Being Christian Wood.
He is a guy who is going to just fit in seamlessly next to Luka, not demand touches, but still be able to contribute on both sides of the ball. I saw him live, and one of the things that I look for when I scout guys in person is the ease in which it looks like they're playing against the competition. And everything just looked like he was playing a different sport. He just, everything was slow for him in where it was fast for everybody else on the floor. The stroke is effortless, and he's not going to have to create a lot early on. If eventually he, gets some Jeremy Grant to him, more power to him, and applaud the work. But taking this route allows him to kind of develop at his own pace. And, maybe he's kind of like the Jaden McDaniels type guy for this Mavericks team.
I still feel like Hendricks could be the name that goes much earlier than we're expecting.
Although 10's pretty early.
Yeah, I just could see a world where, every draft has one of those guys that just goes whoa. And I feel like Hendricks has that skill set where I think a team might see another level of upside. That
I think he's a fit guy, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he's a fit guy. I think that teams maybe have a more rational view of how guys develop than fans on the internet.
What?
I know. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Corey, do you think in a world he's safe?
Oh, I think he's
what he does now. I feel like he's a safe option. I think people are going to try to come for my head, so bring it on. But Detroit, I think he enters the conversation if he just has an unbelievable workout and they love him. You never know. Like
I
you
actually
saw it
love
with Patrick
I
Williams.
love it. I actually love that fit.
Thanks.
Like
I appreciate it. Sometimes I'm smart.
Him and Duran next to each other are a lot of fun.
Makes
Right?
sense.
And he's a play finisher type. But that's kind of my point. Like I don't one of the reasons I could also see him going here, or I don't think he drops too far just because he is safe. He does provide that level of like sturdy production. Is just like I just think that on the internet he's been billed as potentially having wing skills, and like I
don't see that.
I need evidence in like actual film, not just like, hey, here's my theory, because he's long and he can shoot a little bit. Like he had like one nice drive on Jarace Walker, but outside of that, it's like, I don't know. Show me more. Do it again.
I did not know that was a world.
If my grandmother had wheels, she would be a bike.
But big.
Okay, first of all, I did not know that was a real like Alice in Wonderland like world that existed. I didn't know there was some wing talk about Taylor, so I'm gonna be out on that one.
There's Taylor Hendricks is a 4-3 in our group chat.
Well, yeah, I don't read all the comments because some people are working. The memes don't make themselves.
Oh, all right.
Okay, all right. Let's go.
Okay,
back.
so moving on. Now that Albert's just all fired up, with the 11th pick, the Orlando Magic, they originally took Asar Thompson at 6. Albert, who are you going with?
I don't know. Hold on. I need to.
Can we get a media timeout? Let's just regroup here. Everybody get back. The grandma bike comment really threw me
a
off.
lot.
You guys know what that's from, right?
No.
It's like that Italian chef. He's like making some sort of pasta on like this British morning show, and the female host is like, if you added some bacon, it'd be like a British carbonara. And he's like so disgusted by her comment, and he's like, if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike.
Paige, please, this is a breakout moment for us.
I'm sorry to everyone in the chat. We'll get back on track.
I apologize.
Wow, unbelievable.
I'm a professional. The Orlando Magic with the 11th pick of the 2023 NBA draft. Who do we want to give them? Let's see.
I don't know. You're on the clock. Okay, so they took Asar. They took Asar. Just a little heads
They
up.
already took Asar. Okay. They have Cole Anthony. Not afraid of him. Markelle Fultz. Not too worried. Oh man, this is tough. Can we give them shooting?
Markel's
You can give them whatever you want.
You're the GM.
Pull
We're
up
not
Peyton
the GM.
Watson from
You're
last
the
year.
GM. Yeah, Peyton
Say,
Watson.
give them shooting and then give them Derek Lively or something. Okay, here we go.
I'm waiting for the next spicy pick, but
let's lock in. I want to give him a shooter. Okay, this is like, hey, this is something we talked about a couple months ago. I wouldn't do this. I would not. But something that I think Rucker mentioned, and you were like, hey, man, this guy could go a lot earlier than we realize. And NBA teams may fall in love with this guy and take him really, really early. I wouldn't do this, but I'm saying it wouldn't be crazy. We're talking about adding shooting to an Orlando Magic team. I'm not talking about Sensabaugh, Mr. Jordan Hawkins here.
Yeah, baby.
I'm saying like, once again, I wouldn't take him at 11, but if we're talking about a guy that NBA teams may fall in love with and take super early, and go earlier than where we're mocking him at, maybe Jordan Hawkins going at 11 isn't the craziest thing. So let me throw that in there.
Corey, you got a little breadcrumb that we think that's a realistic possibility, right? I mean, we don't like to be sources, guys. Sources.
No, because this whole thing is incredibly unpredictable. And to throw out something like that as fact would be crazy. But yeah, I think that there is a feeling out there in the ether that like Jordan Hawkins is a guy that could go early. I mean, look, one, I love this fit to Orlando in this situation because my comp for Jordan Hawkins the entire year has been JJ Redick, where JJ started his career. And another guy who, he doesn't need the ball in his hands at all. And if Franz is going to have the ball in his hands, if Paulo's going to have the ball in his hands, if Asar is going to have the ball in his hands a little bit, if Fultz is going to have the ball in his hands, if Suggs needs the ball in his hands, if Cole Anthony needs the ball in his hands, somebody is going to need to not have the ball in their hands eventually. And Jordan Hawkins literally can do the Clay 11 dribbles and score a ton of points. He runs around the floor like a madman, but it's different than other guys moving around the floor. I mean, he is creating offense when he's not even involved in the play. And what that does, the pressure that puts on the defense where you always have to worry about him. I believe it was Brad Stevens who said that to guard Kyle Korver, he might average 13, but you got to guard him like he averages 30.
Yes, that's a good one.
And I think that's, what Jordan Hawkins can potentially do for an offense. And yeah, he's a little bit slight of frame.
Plays hard though. Yeah.
He definitely needs a left hand. But I love his game. I love how seamlessly he fits, and the volume in which he shot close to 40% is out of this world. So this is a guy who I don't think it's crazy. This dude's going to get in workouts. He might not miss a single shot. You know what I mean? Like he's going to blow the roof off. He's going to look super athletic and bouncy in an open gym. It would not shock me if he, really, really impressed some teams in workouts.
I'm so happy Albert did this because I think this is one of my favorite fits. Like him going to Orlando, regardless of what they do with that earlier pick, but like this could be an unbelievable fit for both parties because of what Corey's saying. Paulo is going to make the world open up for Hawkins, even as a rookie. Franz, and then you add Asar. Like Orlando needs to take that next step, and I think they can take it with this class with like these two picks. And you got to get an identity now. Now you got to get a little bit of like a wrinkle and something that's going to create some problems for opposing teams. And I think Asar with his development of what he can do off the ball, and then you get Jordan Hawkins, who could just be a nightmare to deal with. Like I love that Brad Stevens quote because it's true with even someone like Hawkins. Like imagine an 8-year vet having to come in and be like, I have to deal with this little kid all night. Like he's running me to death. So I think that's something that would make life easier for everybody else too. Even if he wasn't getting the ball, like you still got to deal with him. You still got to cover him because he gets a couple shots and you're like, oh crap. So I just love the fit. And that's the range I think we've all been wanting Orlando to get potentially another shooter, but I just love the wrinkle of Hawkins with that roster.
All right. Well, another team that could be looking to add a lot of shooting to their roster in this draft is the Oklahoma City Thunder at pick number 12. Rucker, who are you going with?
OKC, stand up. Thunder up, baby. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. So there's a name on here that I keep staring at because he's slowly moving up my board, and there's a lot of people in this room that really like him, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take him.
Do it.
Don't do it.
No, I'm not going to do it. There's just a ton of different angles they could go here. The problem is like someone like Anthony Black's on the board that's unbelievable, like piece, value. Presti's never afraid to be like, that's the guy I want. We'll figure it all out. And I think Anthony Black has the size and versatility to kind of figure it out. But there's just a lot of guards. I don't want to go there right now. So let's hold off on that. I'm going to be aggressive and go with my gut here. I still think this is a guy that Presti is the guy that would absolutely love him, despite maybe he cooling off in the draft space lately. I'm going to take Jet Howard.
Bingo.
I know some people might think that's a little rich, but OKC is going to have a very big year. Of course, with Chet coming back, the year they just had, all those pieces. For every reason we just said for the Orlando Magic, why we like Jordan Hawkins, I love Jet Howard going to the Thunder. Movement shooter with size. Like you can make life very easy for him early on with that talent, that roster, that lineup. Like Jet's just going to come in and they're going to be like, play smart and shoot the crap out of the ball. And it's like, yeah, okay, he can do that. And everyone was cooling off on him lately. And we found out he's been injured basically the whole year. Both of his feet were basically just disastrous. And he's doing stuff like that on injured ankles. So I don't know, Metcalf, you're Mr. Michigan. Do you think it's a good pick here? Do you think that's still great value? Is there a world where he starts to heat up with this pre-draft process? Because like Corey just said with Jordan Hawkins, another guy I think could go shoot the crap out of the ball in workouts. I think he could just look unbelievable.
Yeah, at his size and what he showed in the first third of the season, it's incredible. It's such a unique combination of size and shooting, and it's not just spot up shooting. They were running their entire offense, basically putting him in motion and then letting him make a myriad of decisions coming off his screens. And it was, for a freshman, obviously he gets a little more leeway because he's the coach's kid, but for a freshman to be given that freedom and then execute on it, where he's attacking the space or hitting a step back three or going short off a screen and hitting it off the catch, or driving and getting all the way to the rim, or driving, attracting the defense and kicking out to shooters. That's really, really special stuff. And then everyone points to the stats and the play just plummeting. It's like, yeah, because both his ankles were completely bum and he couldn't move like he did in the beginning of the year. And there you saw that in how their entire offense changed. And it was so much less jet high ball movement, high player movement offense. And it devolved into, all right, Hunter Dickinson's getting 45 post up attempts a game. So I think there's so much more potential here. I think if he would have had a healthy season, I think he would have been pretty comfortably in the top 10 for a lot of people. I get the concerns with the defense, but even on the injured ankles, I thought it improved throughout the year. Obviously not a good defender, but it went from disastrous to just bad, steps in the right direction. So really good shooter, great size, really good passer. I think there's a lot to love there. Albert, I know you're still super high on him. Where are you at?
I mean, yeah, I still have him top 5. He's been in my top 5 for months now. And it obviously people see it as a hot take or whatever, but I literally ditto to everything that you just said. Like, he is I think he's a really unique talent. I think he's probably right now he's at 6'8", but who knows? He may finish growing to 6'9", 6'10", and to be able to move the way that he does, to shoot the way that he does. He even was able to flash some handles. The passing stuff, as you mentioned, something I highlighted in my piece on him as well. I get it. Like, the rebounding was not great at all. The defense needed a lot of work, but I think offensively there are real skills and tools there for him to become a terrifying offensive player. And so for me, I still have him legit top 5, and I don't feel crazy about that. So for him to go at this spot and to end up with that team is, I think, great value.
Okay, with the 13th pick, the Toronto Raptors, there are 2 names at the top of the list that I could go for. But I'm going to take the guy who I believe in his shooting long term a lot more. I'm going Kobe Buffkin. The steps this kid made throughout the year and from his freshman year, I think, are insane. He added 15 to 20 pounds of muscle from last season to this season, and it showed. It made a massive difference. I think he's one of the shiftiest on-ball creators in this class. Super smooth jumper, good, not great passer. I think there's a lot of scoring versatility with him, where he can operate on ball, operate off ball. He was a menace operating off of DHOs, running off screens, using that off-ball movement to generate on-ball shots. I think his hesitation move is scary good. I think he has a lot more burst and explosiveness at the rim, great use of angles, finishes with either hand around the rim. And then I think he has some of the best defensive hands in the class. Competes really hard on that end. The footwork needs to get cleaned up. It's a little inconsistent there, but the length, the size, the competitiveness, the hands, I think he's really has all the tools to be one of the best guards out of this draft.
I absolutely love him. I think that'd be a home run if he ended up in Toronto. Wouldn't shock me also if he goes earlier than this.
We all love Buffkin. I mean,
love him. Measured good too. Measured really good at the combine.
Yeah, I mean, he finishes everything around the rim. He could, 85% from the free throw line, which is an actual good free throw number, an indicator. And so, I mean, I think he's, just kind of a winning player. The on-off numbers, incredible. Like, Buffkin rocks. He rocks.
Okay. To round out the lottery, 14th pick, New Orleans Pelicans. Corey, who you going with?
Well, before I make the pick, I want to shout out the chat and everybody watching live, rocking with us. Everybody rocks here. The support. Draft Fanatics, it's going to be me.
I was waiting. I couldn't. I was the whole last pick. I was trying to figure out how to say it. So thank you.
It's not going to be. It's not going to be right now. I'm going to make it. I'm not going to force it. But shout out to everybody in the chat: Sam Z, Aiken, Kunal Sharma, Hobo, Sam Z, Ronald, Sergio. Thank you so much for watching and sharing this journey with us tonight as we take this train off the rails, as we always do. So with the 14th pick and rounding out the lottery for the New Orleans Pelicans. I am going to take Bryce Sensabaugh now at this point. Sensabaugh is the best player available left on my board. And I think that Sensabaugh is a guy that is going to add some floor spacing. He can play off of Brandon Ingram or Zion. He can 48, 40, 82 shooting splits this year. Some of the most advanced, skilled footwork in the entire class. If you saw those workout pictures, and we love workout pictures, he's looking a little slimmer, but I mean, the dude, it was him and Zion, his now teammate in this scenario, who had like 40 points per 100 possessions as a freshman. Like, the dude just puts the ball in the basket. So I think you could, easily fit him in off the ball. He can grow into a sort of on-ball role. They don't have a whole hell of a lot of depth at that guard spot. CJ's getting older. Josh Richardson, what are we doing if we're taking him into account for our future? I just think the guy's a lock to be a good player. It just becomes, how much does he commit to his body and how good of a player can he be? But as far as offensive skill, and he's a guy that I actually think did show playmaking flashes throughout the year to where you could be like, all right, this can be developed. I don't know if this is the team context immediately coming in, if he's going to show that, but I think that he's got enough instincts that, they can bring that out of him. So Bryce Sensabaugh to the Pelicans.
All right. Well, to recap the lottery, we had Victor go first overall to the Spurs, at number 2 to the Hornets, Brandon Miller, 3 to the Trailblazers, Jarace Walker, 4 to the Rockets, Scoot Henderson, 5 to the Pistons, Cam Whitmore, 6 to the Magic, Asar Thompson, 7th to the Pacers, Keontae George, 8th to the Wizards, Cason Wallace, 9th to the Jazz, Amen Thompson, 10th to the Mavericks, Taylor Hendricks, 11th to the Magic, Jordan Hawkins, 12th to the Thunder, Jett Howard, 13th to the Raptors, Kobe Buffkin, 14th to the Pelicans, Bryce Sensabaugh. I think the rest of the first round, we're still going to keep giving great analysis, maybe fly through a little quicker. But with the 15th pick, the Atlanta Hawks, Albert, who are you going with?
Okay. I had an internal discussion with me, myself, and I.
How'd that work out?
Is it contentious?
Rough.
Yeah. It's gonna get a little, troubling this time of the
Fucking Albert never listens.
Yeah, it's okay. Just trust your gut here.
This roster is weird, dude.
It's pretty strange.
The hell's going on over here? I was looking up and down the roster. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't build my team like this.
Shout out Trav. Shout out Hawks fans.
But okay, so I feel like at this point they're drafting pretty high for a team that has high aspirations to do, winning things. But I mean, they kind of have log jams like all over the place. I can't tell the future. I don't know what the hell they're going to do with that roster. But for now, I'm going to take a guy that they can develop, give him some time to season. Doesn't have to be an impact guy right away, but a guy that I think has a really high ceiling. I'm going to go ahead and give them Maxwell Lewis here to the Atlanta Hawks.
Just a good pick. It's just a good pick. I'm proud that you had a deep talk with yourself, and that's the resolution you came with. So we're really proud of you.
We love Maxwell Lewis.
I love Maxwell Lewis.
He's dropped in, on boards and rankings and everything, and I still have my Maxwell Lewis stock because I think he's got some really special stuff, and the juice and the creation, and he's shown some really interesting playmaking flashes. And when we had Jalen Clark on the No Ceilings pod earlier this year, and he trained with Jalen in the offseason, and Jalen is a defensive stopper, and he's like, Max has a gift for putting the ball in the hoop, and for a guy with the weird kind of developmental trajectory that he's had so far, like there's a lot to buy into in the long term with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I got to see him play live at UCLA, and I'm telling you guys, I've mentioned this probably 50 times already, but watching him in warmups, like he literally forgot how to miss. Like every jumper was going in and looked so beautiful. And I think he's going to be a really good shooter with real athleticism, real length. I think his defense is not all the way there yet, but I think he showed some improvement. I think the playmaking, he showed some improvement as well. So as a developmental wing with that type of shooting upside, with the measurables that he has, the athleticism that he has, I think he's a really intriguing prospect. And for a team that has, the roster log jams that the Atlanta Hawks have, he could be a guy worth kind of, not necessarily stashing, but a guy that you can kind of let season and you can give him his time to develop.
All right, with the 16th pick, the Utah Jazz are on the clock. At 9, they took Thompson. Rucker, what direction are you going?
This is a pretty ugly spot because I'm looking at the best player on my board, sort of a similar pick to what I just took at 9. So do I just double down on that?
Embrace the chaos.
No, I can't. Yeah.
Do what your heart tells you. Do what your heart tells you to do.
My heart tells me I'm taking the best player available. I'm going to do it. I know it's going to be a little bit of a weird fit, but I'm going to double down. I'm going to take Anthony Black because I never thought he would be here. And if I'm Danny Ainge, it's sometimes you just got to take what's on the board and figure it out down the road. And, I think Anthony Black, it's so funny how many mock drafts we do. And I still think Anthony Black is going to be a guy that goes top 10. And there's so many mock drafts we do where he just slips through the cracks and he ends up going a little bit later than it happens. And I think it's just because this is a guy that I think front offices are going to be very, very high on Anthony Black because of what he offers. It's just going to have to figure out like which team is going to make that jump to go all in. And, you could argue that maybe Washington at 8 when I took Cason Wallace, maybe Washington's a team that would have jumped all over Anthony Black instead. So, with him still being on the board here, I'm going to take the value.
He's another guy that he's the players go, oh, that dude was tough. Yeah. Like when I ask the players like about this guy or that guy, he's been the guy that everyone's just like, Anthony Black could hoop.
It's so, I don't know. Looking at the board, it's just so interesting because I keep convincing myself like someone's going to take him early, and I'm just trying to figure out which team it's going to be. I don't know.
And he's definitely a guy that could go and very easily could go top 10, if not earlier. So I agree with you. It's a little clunky fit given the Thompson pick earlier, but based on value at the spot, kind of hard to pass that up. But moving on to the 17th pick, Los Angeles Lakers. I really hate this spot. But I'm torn between two names. I think I'm going to go with a guy who's a little more complimentary right now, does a little bit of everything, a little more win ready now. I'm going to go Colby Jones.
Perfect.
Great pick.
Friend of the program.
I know there are some questions about the shot. I buy it, at least to a good level, not lights out, but acceptable, at least off the catch. I think he's a really good defender, really good passer. Corey and Albert, you guys talked with Colby and broke down some film earlier in the year. What kind of stood out to you about him?
I think what you said, right? There's a real versatility to him on both sides. I think he's going to offer, as a complimentary guy, I think so much. But I also do think that him kind of being labeled as a complimentary guy kind of puts a cap on his ceiling, which I don't think should be there. I think he's a guy that early on could be one of these, he helps you compete. He does kind of everything all over the floor. But I think there's real potential for him to continue to grow as an offensive player, especially. I think the shooting is only going to get better. He improved a ton with his outside shooting. And something when we talked to him, he talked about how, heading into this past season, outside shooting was a big focus for him in terms of improvement. And right now he's working on, jumpers off the dribble. He wants to be a better shooter off the dribble, something he's working on. And I think that could be a nice layer to his game. A guy who has a really good floater, great touch around the rim, really tough. He's one of the classic, like, hey, he's always doing winning things on the floor type of guys. And those guys have value, but also that doesn't mean they don't have high ceilings as well. And I think there's real potential for him. If you're grabbing him here at 17, where he ends up playing way higher and better and ends up, the outcome becomes better than where he was drafted.
Okay. With the 18th pick, the Miami Heat are on the clock. Corey, who's being added to the culture?
So this is, I think, a really great opportunity for the guy that I'm going to take here for Miami. For the Miami Heat, I am going to take Gigi Jackson.
It's a good
pick. And add Gigi into the culture. I think that Gigi is a guy who needs the culture, and not just because he went on Instagram Live and, was a young, immature kid and, had a moment of weakness, but because he needs to learn how to play the game of basketball. He's skilled as all hell, but he needs to learn how to do the winning things. And if that means, having to maybe sit on the bench for a little bit and learn from one of the best coaches the game has ever seen, from one of the most competitive players in Jimmy Butler that the game has ever seen, guys who are just straight up winners, guys who are going to tell him, hey, if you don't get your ass in the gym early on, like, if you're not hours early to practice, if you're not doing the right things when we don't show up to the arena, it's not going to work for you. But this is how you're going to maximize your potential. Having that leadership, being a part of a team that just keeps winning and keeps being underestimated. I think Gigi Jackson, as a member of the Miami Heat, can really turn into something special. So I'm going to take Gigi Jackson.
That fit would be awesome for both parties. Funny thing about Gigi is I'm watching the combine. I think I texted it to the group, and I'm watching TJD, Trace Jackson Davis, shoot. And I'm like, who is that 15-year-old in the background that's waiting to shoot next? And I was like, that's Gigi. Oh my gosh. And it was just like, that's how young he is. And you have to remind yourself that he's supposed to be a freshman this year coming out. It's just crazy. I think someone needs to think long-term project. And if you take it baby steps with Gigi's development and he buys into that, you're going to find gold. But he's got to buy into it. Both parties got to be willing to buy into the process. Trust the process.
All right. Well, with the 19th pick, the Houston Rockets are on the clock. They originally took Scoot Henderson at number 4. Albert, who are they adding to their young core?
Only the Lord knows. This is a tough one, guys. Holy crap. Why did I think I was getting the Warriors pick? I messed up here.
A graphic that's like on deck, Albert.
Wait, aren't the Warriors?
Tankathon has the Warriors.
Oh, they messed up. Thanks a lot, Tankathon.
No, so it is the Warriors.
Oh, no, so then I messed that up.
Oh, yep. Metcalf, get out. Get out.
It's Metcalf's fault.
All right, so
we were having
with the Golden State Warriors. We have a trade.
So with the Rockets, I'm going to let go and let God. With the Warriors, I'm going to go ahead and make a pick here. So this is what I think. The Warriors, they're going to have some sort of change here. I don't know. Maybe Myers doesn't come back, whatever. But they've taken a lot of swings in the draft. Mr. Wiseman, he didn't work out. We still believe in him. We still believe in him. Just he didn't work out for that team. Moody, Moses, Moody, whatever. I think he showed a little bit in the playoffs. Good for him. Great. They took a swing on Patrick, right? Patrick Bolton Jr. Well, not much. Kuminga, he hates the team. We know, who knows where he'll be playing next year? Maybe with Dwight Howard, not sure. But I think the Warriors may go something a little safer here. A guy they're going to feel like they have experience developing this type of player, a guy that they will believe like he can play in their system. Obviously, I think they go Grady Dick here. The Warriors, they know a little something about the shooting stuff, and Grady Dick is good at the shooting stuff. So I think obviously Clay has lost a step there. Maybe they look at Grady Dick as a developmental, Clay successor type of guy. Dick is, surprisingly athletic. Why did I say that? That's mean. He's a good athlete.
I wonder why you said that.
Yeah, why don't we talk about it?
Good athlete. Grady Dick.
He gets up.
He gets up.
It gets up.
Underrated passer. I just feel like the Warriors are going to look at him and be like, hey, we've done this before. Maybe we can do it again, type of thing. And he's a lights out shooter. So Grady Dick, Warriors.
Love it. All right, moving on now to the Houston Rockets at 20. Rucker, who are you going with?
Well, I'm still doing backflips in the war room from getting Scoot at 4. So a lot of names higher on my board that I probably could entertain here. One name that's probably good value, but I don't know if it makes a lot of sense adding to a crowded backcourt, if you want to put it that way, even though I like his game a lot. So I'm going to go down my personal rankings a little bit, and I'm going to take someone that I think would be a perfect fit for this Rockets team and for Scoot Henderson. I'm going to take Derek Lively. I got him a little lower, but I think the idea of getting Lively with Scoot and what that roster needs is, Lively would be a great kind of, let him do what he does early on. And we all love Alperen Şengün, and I think you just they got to get some defense. Udoka was Lively, and you get Scoot Henderson to start getting after it defensively. I think that's a fantastic pairing. I'm still fascinated to see if the outside shot is a thing that's going to develop, because I don't forget those Duke preseason videos, which they only showed him. Metcalf talked about it a lot. It pisses me off. But I think Lively second half of the year, you saw the defense really start to turn up another notch when it came to like defending on the perimeter. Obviously the shot blocking was fantastic, but I thought his feet also looked much better in the second half of the year. I was a little like, whoa, okay, where did the center blocks go? So Lively ended up in Houston. I think that's a good, shift in the right direction. Some other bigs that I have higher on my board, but I think it makes more sense for a team like Houston maybe to go with Lively.
I think we all buy the defense at this point, especially the rim protection. Big question with him is, what does he give you on offense? Dating back is like the last 15 or 20 years. I forget the exact number when I looked it up, but he has the lowest usage rate out of any ESPN number 1 overall recruit by about 5 points. The next being Nerlens Noel. Corey, projecting him forward, I think there are some flashes with the passing, but offensively, what do you think? Do you think he can provide anything outside of just rim running and offensive putbacks?
No, and I don't think he has to. I think that he should run to the rim as fast as he can in transition. I think he should clean the garbage up. I think he should screen and catch lobs from Scoot, and maybe if they get creative and let Şengün do a little 4-5 pick and roll. But defensively, he also is, one of just a few guys who had a block percentage over 12.5 as a freshman in a high major. And all of those guys are NBA guys. He had a high BPM. Like, his advanced stats were pretty eye popping for the year that he was having at the beginning of the year. I mean, how much potential does he have? Probably not going to turn into the next Anthony Davis, given the limited offensive stuff. But when you're just looking at a backcourt that has two guys that could get you a combined 60 points on any given night, to go along with two front court guys who can, get buckets too. Like, he doesn't need to do anything but clean the glass and rim run. Like, this is a guy who just needs to play defense and make sure that, there's some element of somebody stopping buckets from happening on the floor. And I think he can do that. I think Udoka could coach him up and toughen him up. I think he's going to have a good frame. At this point, I think he's just tremendous value.
All right.
That step through, I have to interrupt you, Metcalf. That step through might be in the Hall of Fame for draft clips, when he does the too many dream shakes and like has a wide open one and just is like, wait, let me get one more in. And then I'm so
really
happy you scored on it because it would have been just like the Hall of Shame. But go ahead.
All right. Well, with the 21st pick, the Brooklyn Nets, Derek Lively was the number one name on my board, but I think a very happy consolation prize is a guy who I think could emerge as one of the best defensive centers from this class. Super young, incredible motor. I'm going James Najee. I think in the playoffs we saw how much the Nets struggled dealing with size and rebounding and giving up constant rebounds. Najee fixes all of that pretty much immediately. Freak athlete, incredibly versatile on defense, really polished in his drop coverage, especially given his age. And I think backing up Nick Claxton, that provides a ton of defensive depth and rim protection and rebounding that this team sorely needs. I don't think he gives you really anything right now on offense, but given how high the defensive potential is, I don't think it really matters, especially when you have guys like Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie and Cam Johnson operating on the perimeter.
I think the last two picks could have been swapped. Yeah. Like I was staring at Najee and I was like, long term, that makes more sense to me if you're looking upside. But I think if Houston's trying to set the tone right away, maybe someone like Lively makes sense. But I mean, we've all talked about Najee. I absolutely love him. And it's only fitting that he's starting to really take his game to another level at the perfect time of the year right now. So he's starting to buzz. His defense is just really, really fun times. If you're looking for a fun evening, just turn on James Najee's defense and then remind yourself how young he is.
All right. Well, with the 22nd pick, the Brooklyn Nets have their second pick of the first round. Corey, who are they going with?
So with the second pick of the first round, and I could see this guy being here on draft night. I could see him going a whole hell of a lot earlier on draft night. In this scenario, he dropped a little bit, but he's going to provide tremendous value for this team. I'm going to go with Jalen Hood-Schifino for the Nets here. Hood-Schifino is a guy that we all loved, and we were like, why is this guy not getting any love early on, where he was just completely off of boards? But he had a tremendous measurement day where I think he's got like a 6'10.5" wingspan or something. Like, he's a big jumbo guard. His pull-up numbers are crazy. I think with NBA spacing, his playmaking is just really, really, really going to pop. Two-way player. The Nets have one player on the roster pre-James Najee that I think you want on the roster in the next couple of years. Cam Johnson too, but he's not a guy that you're like has to be a part of your future. So I think getting a lead guard who isn't Spencer Dinwiddie in Brooklyn to build around would be a great get. So Jalen Hood-Schifino here.
Man, that's a fun dynamic to build with that length. All of a sudden, if you get in Bridges and Cam, I mean, that, like you're saying, Corey, that additional spacing really would open up some stuff. But I love Hood-Schifino. I'm right there with you. I think you could go much earlier.
All right. Well, with the 23rd pick, Portland Trail Blazers are on the clock. Albert, who are you going to take to add to Jarace Walker?
So the Trailblazers traded for Cam Reddish. That happened. And Cam Reddish
to play good, huh?
Yeah, but think they can improve on that. I think grabbing a guy who is going to come in and be a really good shooter from day one. I think he has more on-ball juice than people realize. He's got a close relative in the league, brother type of relative. Chris Murray here. I thought about Koulibaly because Nathan just can't stop talking about him. But I wanted to give them Chris Murray because I think Murray is going to be a guy who is a really good shooter. I think he's a really good player overall. Can rebound, can do stuff with the ball in his hands. Obviously, can play off the ball. I just think adding to their wing depth in Portland will help, regardless of what happens with Dame. I think adding another guy there who's a mature player, winning type of player. I liked Chris Murray here, so I went Chris Murray.
Rucker, Chris Murray is obviously Keegan Murray's twin brother, and they're inevitably going to get compared together or compared to each other. But how do they differ in their games?
It's tough because I mean, watching what Keegan did last year, and everyone was a little bit of a skeptic, and I feel like last year we were waiting for Keegan to be like, okay, he's putting up these crazy numbers. Let's see him do it against conference play. Then he did it against conference play, and it's like, well, he's older, and it's like, well, give me a break. I think Chris is more of your feed in and letting him try to go to work a little bit. With Keegan, as we saw with the Kings, you could run him off everything. He's a movement shooter, violent. Now Chris can do a little bit of that, but I think you're more trying to play him as like kind of a complementary connecting piece. But Chris is also one of those guys. I think I talked to Corey about it. It was either on a show or off the air. I was just like, is there a world where Chris just brings back unbelievable value and we all just sort of like, what are we doing? We're overthinking this one, because I think he was incredibly impressive this year for the jump he took with his play. There's some nastiness to his game. There's some ability. There's some desire to go battle. So I think if you're getting him late first round for a potential playoff team, I think adding someone like Chris Murray is really good value. I like it. Albert's having a good draft.
He was still good when I saw him live.
Yeah.
Seen him back-to-back years live, and he's just one of those guys, the ball finds him.
Mm-hmm.
It's always in the right spots on both sides. It might not stand out, but like from a flash perspective, but it stands out where you're just like, God, like he just hit another shot, or he just pulled another rebound down, or he just made another hockey assist, or whatever the case. He just made another good rotation. He's just he just did that again, guy. Like he was so solid when I saw him.
I think, guys, I brought up the Cam Reddish thing earlier, but the reason why is because I think he's going to be the opposite of Cam Reddish. Like Cam Reddish, he comes in with this, aura about him where Anthony Edwards talked about it once on a video being so hard to guard, and you expect all this flash and for him to be the superstar in the making, and yet it hasn't worked out at all for him on the 3 teams he's been on so far. And I think Chris Murray is going to be the opposite. I think he's going to be really quiet about doing all the things you want him to do really, really well. And that's a really good player.
If Portland leaves that draft with Jarace Walker and Chris Murray, they would be one of the best drafts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge step in the right direction when you're getting guys that might not have superstar upside, but they might also play for your franchise for 10 years. And last thing I'll say about Chris Murray is one of his worst games was beginning of the year against Duke. And he just couldn't get anything to fall. Like it was just one of those like quicksand games or everything you're doing wrong. And he just started making plays as a passer. I was like, there you go. Like you can't get your shot to fall. And he started making some really nice plays for his teammates. I just think, like Corey said, it's a guy that's just going to keep grinding, keep figuring out a way to help your team.
All right. Well, enough of Chris. With the 24th pick, the Sacramento Kings, who is going to be his brother Keegan's new teammate? Rucker.
Boy. I mean, Keegan's probably throwing chairs right now. Gosh, I just can hear Nathan screaming through the screen right now. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go a little bit of a wild card here. I'm going to draft one of my favorite guys that I think is going to be a fantastic value in this range. I'm going to give the Kings Julian Strother. I know how the board's looking right now. I understand there's some big names. There's some names that I'm not really overly high on. I think there's also some names that are going to have some serious questions throughout this pre-draft process, but the Kings are coming off a fantastic year. I think we've shown that our Monty McNair has shown he's not afraid to go get his guy. Even when there might be players or prospects that the consensus views as high upside guys, I think Monty McNair is like, give me the doubles. We always say with baseball, you don't have to swing for the fences. Sometimes you just need a single or double. I think Monty McNair shows like, give me this specific type of player for this roster to take another step forward. And I think obviously the Kings had some struggles in the playoffs with rebounding, but I think they still need to keep building some shooting, get some wing depth. Harrison Barnes, I think, is a free agent. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Julian Strother, I just love the nastiness he has. For a wing, he's a damn good rebounder, but the leap he took this year with his outside shooting is something that we cannot talk too much about. I mean, it's been unbelievable. So I would think that would be a home run pick.
So when you look at Strother's synergy numbers, his
Here we go,
percentile
Micah.
rankings, they're just bonkers. And just his efficiency across the board is insane. And he's now produced at a really high level for multiple years at a major program. Corey, why isn't he more widely viewed as a first round lock?
Probably just his age. I mean, for a first round lock, he really should be at this point. His shooting, his ability to put the ball in the basket from way behind the line, really impressive. Floater, super smooth. The guy's just got insane touch. I think, people probably have some concerns about how he's going to hold up defensively, but at the same time, like, he has the size where I think when he gets to be in his third, fourth year in the league, like, you're not gonna be able to pick on him once he figures out what the game's about. But as an offensive complementary piece, that dude he could sling it, man. He can really, really shoot the ball, and he doesn't need the ball in his hands to do it. And that's really valuable. So if you could put that guy, if you get him in the 20s, he's a guy that I think has a really good chance to stick. Because at this point, none of these guys are guaranteed to stick. But when you can shoot the ball like that, you're going to get opportunities. So I think it's really good value. It would not shock me if he went this early. I think if he drops into the second round, then whoever gets him is going to be paying him a little bit early after that second year. So, yeah, he's a good basketball player. And sometimes being a good basketball player makes you a little bit underrated because you've shown that you're a good basketball player, and people like to bet on guys who aren't good basketball players, but might be a good basketball player at some point.
Analysis.
Corey, I did want to say really quickly.
That was the best pick I made because of that.
I feel like Strother's the type of guy that teams that don't have a first round pick will trade into the first round pick to go and grab.
Yeah,
because of everything that you guys are. The Knicks, there are teams out there that need shooting, and he's got great size as a wing. And like you said, I think defensively for sure, he's not walking into the league as a stopper by any means, but he's got the size, he's got the measurables. I think with coaching and being in a good system, I think he can get there. And I think, like, especially me being a homer, but he's the type of guy that the Knicks should be targeting. Like, you watch that last series that we just played against the Heat, like, God damn, we needed a shooter. And as much as I love Josh Hart, every time he had an open shot on the wing, he passed it up or drove to the rim. So I think there are going to be smart teams that don't have a first round pick that could trade up into the first round pick just to grab a guy like Strother.
He's kind of like Jumbo Quickly in some ways.
Exactly, especially with the floater. Yeah, that's a great call.
I have some names. Like, I just would say, like, people would be like, why Strother over these? I have some names ahead of Strother, but I think also you have to understand the team and who's on the clock. And I think Strother could project to be an easier transition early on for a team like the Kings than maybe you don't want to take a guy that might take a couple of years to find their groove. So Sacramento's got some momentum. They're going to want to keep building off it.
All right. Well, Strother was the name at the top of the Grizzlies board at 25, but since Rucker so rudely stole my pick back to back now,
every time you say all right, we have to take a shot after a pick. All right. So
rude. All right. So the Grizzlies are obviously pivoting away from Dillon Brooks, and to replace his defense, I'm going to go with a younger option who still has some long-term offensive potential. I'm going Bilal Coulibaly. I think he could be one of the best wing defenders from this class. His size, length, athleticism are all really, really encouraging. The shot looks okay, but he's really reluctant. It's really slow. It needs to be worked on. There are some on-ball flashes that are, again, okay, but really only came through against lower competition. The passing is super erratic, but again, there are flashes in a lesser role where he's really only put out there to defend, run in transition, and be a play finisher. I think there's a lot of potential for him early in his career as that defensive stopper, and then continuing to grow his offensive skill set.
I'm going to defend our guy, Nathan Grubel.
It's about time.
I
That's
think
what it is.
Koulibaly could be a guy that a team's just in the top 14 picks. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm taking him.
Easily.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
He's got probably like top 3 to 5 movement patterns in this entire draft. The way he moves on the floor is kind of bonkers. His measurements, or his reported measurements at least, are insane. I actually think he's shown some pretty nifty passing potential and playmaking potential. I think there's a cadence to passing out of the pick and roll. There's a pace to it. And the way he plays in the pick and roll is really impressive. I think that this guy has the potential, under the right circumstance, with the right coach, with the right developmental plan, to be like a Jaylen Brown type guy. And I don't want to say that lightly, but I believe that he's got some special potential. It's just going to be what team can unlock it. Typically, the Grizzlies do a good job, but a lot of turmoil there going on in Grizzly land right now. So we'll see. But this dude really, really rocks.
I almost took him at 16 with the Jazz second pick. I see him going. I could see him going in the lottery. It's just, where do you see it? I don't know. Like Toronto, I understand the idea.
Yeah.
But is that where you want to go? You know, you're going to have a new coach, probably a pretty big year. I don't know. So, I mean, there's just a lot of spots. Like, I could easily see him going earlier. It screams a Danny Ainge taking him with the second pick, but I just also wouldn't shock me if he goes lottery, because he's got that much steam. Like Corey says, he moves around the court, and it's freaky, like how smooth he is. And I still think he's raw, but it's like, just, that's one of those, you take him and you be very patient.
With the 26th pick, the Indiana Pacers are back on the clock. They previously took Keontae George. Corey, what direction are they headed in?
So I just had my guy taken off the board, but I am equally excited to go in a much different direction here. I'm going to go with Trace Jackson Davis for Indiana. I just think that this dude is a force. He proved to be a force this year. Like, his advanced numbers are off of the charts good. He impacts winning, and he did it all without a semblance of a jump shot that everybody saw in, the combine. It was like, oh, he might be able to shoot. And it's like, yeah, probably not for a while, but what he can do, he's another guy that's going to play 0.5 basketball and be able to connect and have everybody just, him and Halliburton, the playmaking potential there. I think that his inside game complements Miles Turner's outside game. So you're getting shot blocking from him to pair with Miles Turner. I think he can move his feet a little bit better than he's given credit for. And he just adds an element to the offense where it's like, you've seen somebody similar work in this roster construction. Like, he's not Sabonis, but there's a lot of similarities in the way they play, and that's worked already. And it's not like they wanted to get rid of Sabonis because he was not a good basketball player. They wanted Tyrese Halliburton. They had to give something really awesome to get it. So he's got a long way to go before he can be mentioned in the same breath, but I think they can run very similar things with him in spurts based on his youth. But he's just a really good basketball player. Another guy I saw live who was really impressive, just tree trunk legs. Like, you could say, all right, he's 6'8.5" in shoes. He's strong as an ox. Like that, you're still gonna have trouble moving him, right? Like, and so big fan of TJD.
Albert, you were nodding along through all that. I take it that you're excited about this pick. Anything else that you find that you get really excited about with TJD's game?
No, I think the point that Corey made about like the advanced numbers, that's something that the four of us talked about when we were in Portland, right? The advanced numbers and how we quantify all that and how to read and understand all that stuff. But with TJD, it's there. You watch the film and the numbers start to make sense. It's an extremely impactful player. I mean, talked about the blocks and all that stuff. I think he's going to be really good. And the Sabonis point, Corey, you make, I think is a really interesting one. Obviously not 1-for-1 comp, but considering the team that he's going to, it makes a lot of sense. So no, I was just nodding along because I agree with what you guys have been saying. Yeah.
Well, after taking Brandon Miller with the 2nd overall pick, the Charlotte Hornets are back on the clock with the 27th pick. Albert, who are they continuing to build their team around?
I have the Hornets taking Marcus Sasser here. I chose Sasser just because Dennis Smith Jr., they gave him some run last year and he did some good things, but that's not a long-term option, in my opinion. Rozier, I think they'll figure something out. I can't see him being there another season. Maybe I'm wrong, and a lot of times we assume teams will make all these moves that we want them to make, but doesn't always happen. But Sasser's a guy who is really tough defender, really good shooter of the ball, guy who can pass, guy who can play on ball, off ball. You see it here in the highlights. I just feel like adding a guy like Sasser to potentially eventually playing next to LaMelo just makes a lot of sense. I think he's going to offer so much defensively with that wingspan that he's got, and the shooting is real with him. I just felt like this was a really good fit, and at this point in the draft, to grab a guy like Sasser who potentially could go higher. I'm not saying it will happen, but it could happen. And I'd be okay with it. But to grab him here at this spot, I think is really good value.
It's been a busy night for the Utah Jazz, who previously took Amen Thompson and Anthony Black with the 28th pick. Rucker, where you're going?
Oh gosh, there's 2 names I really like here. This is tough. Okay, so I got Amen. I'm pretty excited actually about getting Amen Thompson, and then I doubled down. I got Anthony Black. We're just gonna have some fun with that backcourt. Got some fun length, athleticism, playmaking developing. I'm gonna get a little nasty on the defensive side of the ball. I'm gonna get someone that might be a little bit of a project. He needs some time, but I'm still a big believer. I think landing in Utah, that could allow him to be patient and develop him. You could find gold. I'm going to take Rayan Rupert from the NZ Breakers overseas. I love Rupert. I'm still a believer that this is some serious upside defensively. I know me and Metcalf have kind of gone back and forth, butting heads about I'm a bigger believer of the defense than he is, and that's okay. We don't always have to agree. But I do like the tools Rupert has. I think he's got some offensive, upside that is a little bit more exciting for me than I think some other people. So maybe I'm just insane, but I think there's some playmaking stuff. I think the shot's trending in the right direction, and he just moves really well on the court. I think he's got the tools to be a pest, and he's going to lean early on his defensive ability. I like his feet. He can get a little over anxious with his feet, but I think that's something, you always want to not have to try to get someone to play harder, almost bring the reins back. And I think Rupert's got some good experience. This was a good year for him in the NBL and in terms of going up against guys that are much bigger. And yeah, he's got to fill out the frame. He's got to add some stuff, but going to Utah, somewhere that they can play the waiting game with him and let him work on his craft. I like that. I think this is good value.
Albert, with Rupert, where do you kind of see his offense growing long term?
Where or how or well, I think obviously the shooting is a concern. Rucker, you were saying that you believe that his shooting, you believe in the shooting, right? Is what you're saying?
I just think it's trending in the right direction from what we saw in FIBA. Like, obviously, I think his body's got to fill out. Well, screw it, Corey. I haven't heard you ever talk about Rupert, so me and Albert will just throw it right at you. We'll throw you on the spot. I mean, what do you think of Rupert? Are you a fan at all? Do you think the shot's looking like it's trending in the right direction? Do you think there's still a lot of concerns?
I think he's the modern day Thabo Cephalosha.
Okay.
Which
so
would
no
be
on the
fun.
shooting.
That's great. I actually functionally, like, when I look at his form, the shot's a little slow, but I think the form itself is pretty clean. Like, it's pretty workable. And I think it's going to be good enough that it makes him a viable prospect, because I think what he does defensively is going to be special. I mean, he guards full court. He guarded full court with the Breakers like Scotty Barnes did at Florida State, where like with that length, you're just in a torture chamber for as long as he's on you. And because he's so long, he can make a difference in the passing lanes as well. So just right there, that's going to give you value, and you get him here. Tremendous. Offensively, he's raw. That's going to take some time. He's going to have to fill out. But at the same time, it's similar to Derek Lively, where it's like, you just want to be a play finisher. If the pick and roll playmaking comes along in any capacity, that's great. But that's a cherry on top. Just knock down open threes and, keep the ball moving. Like, that's all you need from him. Cut to the hoop, in opportune moments. That's all you need for him to be a positive contributor, because his defense could be potentially so special. But I think it's going to take him a little while before he can handle the physicality. But he's a little bit more used to it maybe than some of the other guys, because the NBL is a pretty physical league. So good prospect. Maybe doesn't have the highest upside, but think he's going to be a pretty safe bet to make an impact in the playoffs 7 years from now.
Albert's laughing, and I think that's a good, if you're looking down the road and he's an impactful player in the playoffs,
I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna. I don't mean it's gonna take him 7 years. I mean,
a decade later,
in 7 years, he's gonna be a guy that's a mainstay on a playoff roster. Is what I mean.
Probably get some minutes in 15 years on the fly. That's all I got.
We're having fun. It's been a whimsical night, guys.
Oh, boy.
There it is.
Oh, boy.
Almost 2 hours later. Metcalf, go. Give us the. All right. We're up there.
I hate you so much. Can't wait to do this again with you in 2 days. With the 29th pick and their third of the first round, Indiana Pacers. Oh, boy. I'm going to go Leonard Miller. I think it's a little clunky of a fit, but his rebounding.
Oh, Leonard Miller. Okay. I thought you said London Miller. I was like, come on. What are we doing here?
You haven't watched it? Google it.
I think the strides that he made this year were really, really impressive. And if that continues, I think Rick Carlisle is a perfect coach for him to learn under. The fact that he's proven that he does have this really high work rate, that he is coachable, that he can take a step back in a role and still produce really impressive numbers, be a menace on the offensive glass, showed some interesting stuff out of the short roll. The defense, I'm intrigued by long-term. It all trended in the right direction. I think the shot is pretty broken and needs to be completely rebuilt, but I think he gives them some versatility in the kind of forward spot, some physicality, some rebounding, and some physical athletic defense to kind of build around in the long term. Rucker, since you're super engaged on your phone, where are you at with Miller?
Sorry.
That jumper's broken, though. Let's triple down on that one, guys.
Shout out Wasserman, but he was pushing the Scoot LaMelo pairing very hard, so I was just caught up in that. So sorry. Shout out Wasserman.
We're gonna be done with this in 3 minutes. Just wait.
Not if I have anything to say about it. I think at this point it makes a lot of sense. There's some diehards out there that think he should be going lottery. I think the development's been probably one of the best storylines of the G League. Me and you just talked about this, Metcalf. I think Leonard Miller and City Sissoko, from where they were in the beginning of the year to now, is unbelievable for the development of the Ignite stat. It's just, they've done a tremendous job. And Miller's a guy that's given me headaches when I'm evaluating, because I get it. I'm just trying to find what team will really, let him run wild, because there's some really intriguing highs, and I think he's a bit of a janitor around the basket. Metcalf, you've said that before, and he's a cleanup guy. He's very active. He's athletic. He's got great length. The playmaking's been intriguing. There's some exciting highs, but I also think there's some ugly lulls, and he's still raw. So, and just from what I saw last year to this year, it's two different players. Like, it's incredible how different he is. So I don't know. At this point, if you could get him in Indiana with your third pick, yeah, I think that's roll the dice territory. You guys got anything?
I think it's also important to say, guys, and this is a direct quote from Rucker when we saw Leonard Miller play live in Vegas for the Scoot Wemby scrimmage. Rucker's literal words were, "That guy fucking sucks."
I did not say that. I did not.
I'm just
say
kidding.
That.
I'm just kidding. Did not say that. But
goodness,
he was a tough watch.
Here we
guys.
go. I get 10 texts already. Thanks a lot. No.
Right. No, here's my thing with Leonard Miller. Because I don't think any of us have really talked about him.
Yeah, we have
on a pod or anything.
On
I don't
purpose.
even know if we brought him up too much in Portland when we hung out for 5 days in a row.
Good vibes.
He's just such a weird fit on an NBA team because it's like, who's giving him the ball?
I don't know.
That's
What, yes, I'm right there. Yes.
Like, I think he's got potential in a lot of ways. I think like if he hits his ultimate outcome, it's like he's like a taller, leaner Julius Randle, who's like a good player, but also like, you know, how far do you go with him if he's your best player? And if he's not your best player, what does that look like? You know, it's like you're going to bounce around. Maybe you're coming off the bench, bringing energy, like Julius Randle in New Orleans type deal. Like, I don't know. He's just, because I don't buy the shot, he makes it hard, as intriguing as some of his skills are. And I think in the actual NBA, I think a lot of the stuff around the rim is going to get a little bit tougher for him.
Yeah, so I brought this up to Rucker on our last episode last week, but he constantly gets compared to Jared Vanderbilt, and I don't see that from him. I don't think he moves laterally quite like that, but he does remind me a lot of Kevon Looney with how physical he is, how much he rebounds, how he can kind of create and pass out of the short roll. How would you guys feel about him instead of leaning down and becoming more perimeter oriented, instead bulking up and being kind of that small ball center where he can dominate the glass on both ends of the floor, can screen and create out of the pick and roll, and just really dominate or try to dominate the paint instead of out on the arc?
Corey, you go ahead. Sorry. I
hate it.
Go ahead.
Love it.
Hate it. Yeah.
Oh,
hate
you
it.
hate it? So I
hate
like it.
No,
Oh, wow.
Well, here's my thing. My first thing, if you're how about we play center, is can you do it defensively? And
See, I think as the year went on, he showed a decent job of with his verticality and physicality down low.
He's just so damn quick and active with his hands around the basket. I'm like, I want you in the paint because you could just be an annoying person to deal with if I'm having to like box you out and guard you. Like, he's just kind of like a
offensively, I'm with it.
Tasmanian devil, but I don't want him on the
offensively, I'm with it. Defensively, I just don't see it. Like, he's not a shot blocker. He's not a rim protector. Nobody's going to be like, oh, Leonard Miller's there. I'm scared of attacking the paint. I just don't see that from him. Like, the numbers don't really back it up. And this is with a bunch of guys who are way less athletic in the G League. Now, the G League is a good league. But yeah, I want him crash. I mean, in a lot of ways, that's like how Julius Randle made his, bread his butter early on, right? He was like 15 and in. I think Leonard Miller is going to be a lot of the same, but defensively, I just don't want him to be the guy that's manning the back line of my defense. I don't trust that. I think it's going to be Swiss cheese if that's what it is. Like, I just don't like, he's got good length. He's got good size. I think you could put him there in spurts, but if that's the kind of player he is, and he's just playing in spurts, it's tough for me.
My problem is I just want him next to like a big five, and you're playing him. It's just the fits drive me crazy.
He's a tough fit. Roster construction,
and I'm not rooting against them. And there's so many people out there that are like at No Ceilings.
Friend of the program,
really passionate about Leonard Miller, and I am amazed at how much better he's gotten in 1 year. I'm just trying to figure out his fit because he looks like he should be on the perimeter, and his game makes me want him around the basket. And I've seen him take 8 different types of shots from 3-point range this year, like where it's just like feet are all different ways. His upper body's all different ways. There's a hitch. There's not it's sped up. It's really slowed down. I'm just like, He looks like a guy that just keeps trying to figure out what's going to be comfortable for him. So I don't know. It's just, I think he's going to go in the first round. I don't know where. I have no idea where.
Well, so let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question though, because there's been a lot of
guys.
There's been a lot of Leonard Miller is going in the lottery buzz, right? But he's playing in the combine scrimmage. So my question is, look, maybe he's just that damn competitive. Or is the feedback like, hey, maybe this will boost your draft stock a little bit, if you're playing against the guys that you didn't get to see in college, because you're trending more towards the back half of the first round.
He played in it last year.
He did, and he wasn't good. But
so
he's a much better player this year. And he has a much clearer path, I think, regardless of, getting drafted than he did last year. Like last year, he had to play in it. This year, it feels like he's choosing to play in it to help boost his stock, which leaves me the question is a lot of the hype of him going early just the internet, and the actual basketball side of it is more like more people are skeptical than we think?
I believe it. I believe teams are more skeptical. And I believe if that was me, and I know I got way better this year and I played bad last year, and I could make a lot of movement with a good performance, like I would play in it. That's just me. And
I think it's smart that he's playing.
I think it's brilliant.
I just am curious about why.
He's a high motor guy that goes out there, and all of a sudden we look up and we're like, Leonard Miller was 6 for 8 and had 14 boards. Like, we're just like, oh gosh. So I mean, and all power to him. I love it. But I think you're right on where like the noise around the league is probably not as loud as the internet, which is a shocker. That's all I got.
Well, rounding out the first round with the 30th pick, the Los Angeles Clippers are on the clock. Corey, who are they taking?
The Los Angeles Clippers. Assuming
I wish they go back to their old logo. Sorry, it just bugs me all the time when I see their logo.
Their rebrand is one of the worst things that's ever happened to basketball. They're going to take Brandon Pajemski with the 30th pick in the draft.
AirPods,
our guy, friend of the program.
PM.
I think that he measured it taller than we were all betting in the group chat slightly, which is good. But the kid had a tremendous year, man. Like he shot the hell out of the ball. He rebounded the hell out of the ball. I think he makes some really great plays. He makes winning plays. He can pass the ball. He's going to keep the ball moving. If you use him, as a, you could use him as like a change of pace off the bench guy, or maybe in a starting unit complementing, Kawhi and PG. And if Russell Westbrook's back, I think you could, play next to him potentially, just with his rim pressure that Westbrook gives. He's just like one of these guys that you can kind of slide all over the floor. And maybe in a lot of ways he replaces a little bit of like the Luke Kennard stuff that he did. So at a certain point, we're all like a little skeptical of the production, but you also have to look at it and be like, you can't completely ignore it because it was pretty bonkers throughout the year. So I'm taking AirPods to close out the first round.
I think he's going to be an underrated winner of the combine because of those measurements. I think we were all like, there's no way he's 6'5", 6, and I think he was almost 6'4" without shoes. So It was big. Probably got a Hugo Basson measurement guy, but
yeah, he's got fluffy hair.
I like Pods a lot. Another puzzler one for me, but every time I watch this game, I'm like, this dude can just play. Dude can play. He does everything I want him to do from a guard and rebounds the crap out of the ball. I just love his mentality.
Yeah, gives me Goran Dragic vibes.
I know Metcalf loves him.
Did you say, were you the one that threw out Brunson? You said, does he have some Brunson to his game? And I was like, that's not a bad one.
Yeah, and I think that's like kind of best case scenario for him. Obviously, there's some lefty influence there, but the floater, the mid range stuff, how he kind of backs guys down, the physicality that he plays with, I think there are definitely some vibes of what Brunson does. That's high end outcome, obviously.
He just had a 40-point playoff game, so
it's not a big, so we're not putting lofty expectations on these guys or anything. It's not
I miss him.
All right. Well,
Well,
sorry. Go ahead, Corey.
No, you didn't lose him. He's he's still with us.
I know.
We've already gone way over, but any names that's still on the board that you guys are shocked about?
Well, I mean, we should mention that people may freak out when they see this video, listen to the pod, whatever. Nick Smith Jr. didn't go in the first round, right? So, I think we're all,
Tariq.
yeah, or well, Tariq, yeah, well, yeah.
It's what happens with the draft. It's what
Yeah.
happens. Like there's going to be guys that slip through the cracks, and I don't know. I'm not that surprised. I mean, thoughts?
I don't have a first round grade on Nick Smith Jr. right now.
There's some heat. I still got him in the first.
Boom.
Corey, Albert, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I
Having
still
really
have him in
a lot
the
of fun.
first. I still have him in the first. I like him, I think, better than Derek.
Same.
So I mean, look, but the one thing I'll say about Nick Smith, and obviously he got hurt. I like his competitiveness to come back and hop into SEC play, but you know, we've gotten the opportunity at No Ceilings to talk to players and stuff, and you know, some of the guys that we've had discussions with who have played against him were like, where's the hype with him? You know, and to me, he's one of these guys that it's like, who's he taking the ball away from in the NBA?
Right.
You know, and it's like, I was thinking about taking him with the Clippers pick, but then I'm like, well, they have Bones Highland. So like, do I need to double down on that? You know, like, cause that's probably the type of player he's going to be. I just think you have to do so much with the ball in your hands now. And you got to like, I believe that he could play on and off of it, but I don't think when he's on, he has the juice to really dissect a defense in a real way. So I think he's a guy who it wouldn't shock me if in the right situation, if he found it and if he drops and he uses it with a chip on his shoulder, but he struggled this year a lot. And while I think that there are things to be learned from high school tape, you know, it's one of the reasons I think we all see Jarace having a little bit more potential than some others might. I also don't think that you have to fall back on it in certain scenarios. Like for these smallish guards, it just gets tricky in this new NBA. It just gets tricky for them.
That's all I got.
Perfect, fellas. This was a blast. Thank you to everyone in the comments who hung out with us. We finally have a draft order to go forward with. Exciting stuff. There's some certainty in this draft finally. Unfortunately, that's the only certainty that's left in this draft. But he is Corey Tulaba at Corey Tulaba. He is Albert Gim at Alberto Gim. I am Tyler Metcalf at T Metcalf11. He is Tyler Rucker at Tyler_Rucker. You can find all of our written work that is 100% free at NoCeilingsNBA.com. Follow us across all socials at NoCeilingsNBA and follow us on YouTube at No Ceilings TV. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and 5-star rating. Until next time, see ya.